Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Carolyn here. Today, I'm going to be talking about a really important topic. So many of my patients are complaining to me, and people that I work with in the Anchor program are also reporting that they're just feeling exhausted all the time, just feeling like they can't get enough rest. And even when they sleep a long period of time, they still are waking up feeling really tired. And they have other symptoms that seem unexplainable. Well, I'm going to be explaining them to you in just a moment and telling you what you can do to help with that. So, I don't know of anyone who hasn't experienced a really tough last year and in some cases even longer with unusually high amounts of stress in your life. Whether you've been stressed about health, you've had COVID fears, or maybe you even had COVID yourself, like me, maybe you suffered lots of losses, whether it be job losses or loss of a loved one, or had financial stress. All of these things, including working long hours and relationship issues and so on, are very stressful. And many of us have had one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. So if you're struggling with binge eating, emotional eating, or food addiction, your eating behaviors can be the first sign that you are stressed out to the max. I want to talk about something called adrenal fatigue syndrome. The adrenal glands are two little tiny glands that sit on top of each of our kidneys, and they put out hormones to help us deal with stress. Now, in the acute stress situation, like something just happens for a little bit of time and then it goes away, your body prepares to with the fight or flight response or the freeze response. It puts out adrenaline, your heart races, the blood is diverted to your muscles so you can run or fight. And then when the stressor is over, your body recovers and it replenishes itself. But these adrenal glands also produce over 50 hormones, including 40% of a woman's estrogen and progesterone, and 40% of a man's testosterone. And over time, when you're under chronic stress, or if you have one stress and then another before you even have a chance to recover, you may be dealing with this chronic stress hormone, cortisol. So when you have chronic stress, not only do you first put out that adrenaline, but then cortisol follows, and then it affects the ongoing stress, affects the production of these other hormones, up to over 50 hormones, in fact. So, because of all of this, any depletion in the adrenals can cause dysregulation of all of these different hormones. And when you're under chronic stress, it does deplete the amount of cortisol that your body can put out in response to stress. So, as I said, when something happens and it resolves quickly, your adrenal glands get a break from regulating these hormones, and the rest of your body gets to rest and recover. But when the situation goes on for weeks or months or even years, the stress then is called chronic stress, and the adrenal glands will burn out from chronic production of cortisol. And that's what leads to adrenal fatigue syndrome. So, what are the main causes of adrenal fatigue? Well, adrenal fatigue syndrome is caused by chronic or long lasting stress. When stressful situations continue, the adrenal glands burn out and they cause this adrenal fatigue syndrome. These can include any kind of stressors, like some of you have had babies during a pandemic. Some of you have, been laid off, especially during a pandemic, highly stressful. And I could make a list of, tens of many things that can cause stress, both positive and negative. But the bottom line is if it's stressful, whether positive or negative, it can deplete your body's ability to respond and make the cortisol and other hormones you need. So let's look at three different kinds of stressors. First of all, there can be emotional and physical stress, and these include all of the overwhelming emotions like fear and shame, guilt, anger, or grief. Sometimes the emotions are generated from inside of us. You know, we're feeling guilty about binge eating, or we're feeling shame about our food obsessions. So it may be internally generated emotions, but whatever they are, if they continue, they can be stressful. While being active is a good stress coping mechanism, you know, having physical activity, going out for a walk or a run or a bike, sometimes when you are tapped out physically, doing too much exercise, especially if you're tired, you're ill, you're recovering from an illness, can actually be another cause of adrenal fatigue. The second big cause, beside emotional and physical stress, are poor dietary habits. Now, I'm not talking about counting calories. I'm not talking about that you should get rid of this type of food or get rid of that type of food. I'm just talking about the fact that if you're eating a lot of junk food and food that doesn't have a lot of nutrients, or if you're chronically dieting, that can be a cause of wear and tear on the body as well. And one of the things that most people that I work with in the Anchor program in particular don't pay attention to is low blood sugar. You know, I have so many patients who maybe had a binging episode, so then the next day they don't eat all day. And that can then lead to low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. And, you know, that then puts stress on the body. And some people do that over and over and over, not realizing how stressful it can be on the body. So we've talked about emotional or physical stress. We've talked about poor dietary habits. Number three is intense stress followed by chronic infections. So let's say you've had a bad, stressful year and then you get sick or you get COVID, right? It could be pneumonia, bronchitis, you could have parasites or COVID. All of those put strain on the adrenal glands. And then sometimes overuse of antibiotics can also reduce cortisol production. Well, how do you know if you have adrenal fatigue syndrome or AFS? Well, here's some of the symptoms. You could be craving salty foods or sweet foods, sugary foods. You may be feeling tired, especially when you wake up. Like maybe you slept a full 8 or 9 hours and you wake up and you're still tired. So this is fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. Maybe you've had difficulty, you find yourself more and more having trouble coping with stress. And then there's depression, anxiety, trouble thinking, or what we call brain fog. Maybe you notice that you have more energy in the evenings. That can be a sign of adrenal fatigue syndrome too. Or you're depending more and more on caffeine and other stimulants, which just makes things worse in the long run. But you're looking for that pick me up because you're so tired. And then the adrenal fatigue syndrome can also show up as compromises in the immune system. So frequent colds or stomach upsets, yeast infections, all sorts of things. So how does this intertwine with binge eating, food addiction, or emotional eating? Well, we know that chronic, long lasting stress can actually, as I said, it causes the release of cortisol. And cortisol, the hormone cortisol, increases appetite. So stress also affects the types of foods that we binge or overeat on. For example, it's thought that high insulin levels and high cortisol levels together lead to wanting to eat more comfort foods, foods that are higher in fat and sugar or both. Stress can also lead to drinking too much. And I'm talking about alcohol, not water, of course. And many times we get less stress or are not active at all. And all of these can have a detrimental effect on eating behaviors. So what can you do? Like if you notice that you have some of these symptoms, what can you do? Well, if you think you may be suffering from adrenal fatigue syndrome, I would recommend that you consult a naturopathic doctor or an integrative medicine doctor who can do the testing, which is usually saliva testing, and then they can advise you about treatment. Then make a commitment to caring for yourself. And here's some simple things you can do to start getting your energy back and feeling better. First of all, practice relaxing. I mean, it's amazing how many of us do not know how to relax. We just, go, 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 go. And many people feel really uncomfortable when they have time to relax. And so they just take on another project. But you can use meditation, guided imagery, or breath work. And I'm going to put in the show notes a place where you can download a free meditation. So just look in the notes below and you'll see a link where you can download either the loving kindness meditation or the beach relaxation meditation. So practice relaxation is number one. Number two, make sure you are sleeping well. And again, I'll put some notes, I'll put some links to a couple of supplements that I recommend. One is neuromagnesium, which helps with sleep. And the other is the homeopathic remedy Calm Forte, which has been around for a long time. Number three, drink beverages that help your adrenals. And these could be things like green tea or ginseng, as well as V8 juice, and not the low sodium kind, because your adrenals do need sodium in order to function. Also, licorice is another way to boost your adrenals. And eat well. Eat lots of fruits, vegetables, protein, and fiber. Try to stay away from the processed foods and try to stay away from the drive-through for McDonald's, okay? And then finally, just a recommendation of taking extra vitamin C and B5, which help with cortisol production. And you can take vitamin D to help with your immune function. But the most important thing of all is to be gentle with yourself. Give your mind and your body a chance to heal. Don't keep driving yourself to do more and more when you feel so bad. With time and good self-care, you can regain your energy and your sense of well-being. This is Dr. Carolyn signing off. I wish you good health.